Okay. Could you please tell us the reaction of your parents after accepting Islam?
Okay. Um, my parents actually were less accepting initially of my conversion to Islam. Um, they actually accepted more of my wildness from when I was in high school and in college initially, and I would get more fallout for practicing Islam than I would actually initially for being crazy and doing whatever I wanted to do. Um, especially when I first stepped into Islam, now as well, I think my perception of Islam as I became Muslim and stayed Muslim is kind of evolved. You know, like some of the emphasis I think that you initially put on to Islam is in terms of appearance. You know, making sure you have this beard, making sure just in the thobe and all this stuff. I put a little bit more emphasis on that than some of the spiritual things that it's supposed to bring out in you as a person. So I think the initial reaction of my parents were like, "Oh my God," you know. It was just like they kind of stepped back, like, "I can't believe what's going on with you." You know, I got all that. I even got my parents making comments as I'm praying. You know, like negative comments, nasty comments. You know, it was very difficult to deal with. But slowly but surely, my parents have, and I think this has gone along with my evolution in my spiritual practicing within Islam. And my parents have become gradually more and more comfortable with the fact that I'm Muslim. They still get nervous. They still partake in the paranoia that happens. You know what I mean? They're still like, "Oh, well, this may happen to you. This may happen to you." But I think it's all out of genuine love and concern. But it's definitely something that was a challenge initially, because I was constantly met in my family's home with, oh, especially with my grandmother, for example, who's on my mother's side from the South, Southern Christian that has is sternly fixed in her ways. Make comments. Oh, well, you're going to hell, right? Because this, da 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 da. But I understand too. It's something that it was new for them. I think it's even different than how Muslims are envisioned in like South Central where I grew up. You think of the black Muslims. So it was way different even than that, because when I'm praying Arabic. They never even associated Islam with Arabic before. Associated with suits and selling bean pies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So they had so it's something that I think was way new for them, a lot of aspects of it. So I think it was just fear of the unknown. I think that kind of pushed them to make certain comments or react certain ways. But I think as time has gone on, they've become a lot more accepting.
Okay, good. After you became a Muslim, what did you find out, about Muslims, the Muslim community, that you have different reactions to?
Well, I know that some communities are a lot more stern in a lot of different things than others. Sometimes I've gone to the masjid and brothers, you need to stand with your feet next to this brother, as opposed to making sure I'm doing all those things instead of focusing on, I think, some of the more spiritual aspects that Islam is meant to bring out. But in general, I can say that all Muslims that I've ever known since the time I become Muslim have been very warm and welcoming towards me. Most of the communities where I go have a lot of Indo-Pak kind of feel from it. There's a lot of Pakistanis. Some where I've gone to, there's been Arabs and stuff like that, but for the most part, the masajid that I go to are mostly Pakistani. But I mean, it's they're always welcoming. I can say that they always want to bring you. We're having iftar at our house. You want to come, and so it's nice. It's a different feel, because I've never had that. Especially when I was, before, when I was younger, when my mother would take me to church and my father would take me to church. You don't really have people inviting you over for dinners and stuff like this. It's not that kind of. I never got that feel, at least, if that existed, and so it was a pleasant change in that way.
So in Islam, what impresses you the most? What do you like the most?
thing that I like the most is the emphasis to live this life as if you can see Allah. You know, to live in this world as though God can see you. You know, that emphasis on that, because like it keeps you mindful. You know, it keeps you mindful that like when you go to pray, you're standing in front of a being that can determine whether you go to heaven, whether you go to hell. You know what I mean? Whether you're gonna be blessed with fortune or not. You know what I mean? Like He has control over everything, and just that emphasis to be mindful of the fact that know who Allah is. You know, live this life as if you know, live this life as if you see Him seeing you. You know what I mean? To keep you mindful of that. I think the emphasis that, especially lately, I've been going to a lot or listening to a lot of lectures about, you know, having for the believer that there's this pair of belief in Allah, to have fear of the consequences, but also hope, believing in Allah with goodness, you know, because that's what He'll meet you with, goodness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Thing that impressed me the most, I think, about Islam is the emphasis on your intention, to correct your intention, because easy to get away with stuff or happen upon things that you wouldn't even intend to do good by. You know what I mean? So it's always a thing to where you have to motive check yourself, and I like that personally because, like, you know, I genuinely want to do good in this world. I want to do good for my brother, my fellow man. I want to do good for my fellow sister, you know. And so I think that's the thing that appealed to me the most.
Mm-hmm.
And also the discipline. Like, I think that for me, like, was something that I think at one point really needed. And so seeing everybody bow at the same time, pray at the same time, you know, face the same direction, fast together, break their fast together, you know, those things are all things that I think brought me towards Islam by showing me, you know, I guess the order that I could present for my own life, that I could have for my own life. So that was really an appealing aspect about it to me.
Could you please tell us what's your opinion about the Islamic world these days?
Well, I've never been a real political person, whether I was Christian or Muslim. Now, like, I've never really been into politics. So all I can say is this: that I think that Islam as a way of life promotes justice, and anything that's counter to that is un-Islamic. So I would say that if the Islamic ethos of justice is something that's present, then that's considered Islamic. If it's not, then I don't consider it necessarily Islamic, even though people term it the Islamic world. So Allahu Alam, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I call it Muslim populated countries.
Right, Muslim populated countries, exactly.
Okay. Can you tell us, like, comparing the East and West cultures, what's similar and what's different?
East and West cultures? I think, you know, I have friends from a lot of different parts of the world. And I can say, like, you know, a beautiful thing that I do really appreciate about the Eastern culture is, like, the emphasis of family. Family seems to be a strong aspect of, you know, decision making. Just you as an individual, you consider yourself a lot connected into your family, and you not only worry about yourself, but you also worry about the impact that it has for your family. I think here it's a lot more about individualism, a lot more there's that separation, and I think that you know, when Islam is properly followed, you know, there's a really strong emphasis on keeping family ties, you know, strengthening those, making sure that, you know, even though you're living in the West, and there's a sense of individualism that's really promoted and pushed forward at the detriment a lot of times to family relations, you know, that can be averted. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what do you think are some of the best methods of dawah?
I think leading by example, like our Prophet ﷺ did. I think that, you know, showing that this religion doesn't turn you into like some fanatic, but it changes you into a person that's spiritual, loving, also that has limits for himself. He respects himself, and that always speaks with a kind word. These are things that our Prophet through his Sunnah he taught us to do, and that as Muslims that we should follow. And I think that in and of itself is the best dawah, to be the example for others. So that I think calls more people to Islam than any words can ever do.
Yes.
So
Okay, I'm going to give you 5 different words, and I'd like you just to comment on what's your thoughts when you hear these certain words. The love of Allah.
hope. Hope.
Okay, the Prophet Muhammad. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's an example, a mercy, and a blessing for all mankind. I think he showed how to live, how to be, and he's who we should emulate.
Yes. Salah.
Salah, connecting with Allah. For me, a lot of times when I go to do my salah, I imagine when I do my takbir that I'm standing there in front. I can't imagine how Allah is, but I imagine that I'm standing in front of His presence and that I'm connected to Him. And that's the way that I get there, So a lot of times I rush to do my salah because I want to get that connection and remain mindful of Allah's presence in my life and His goodness.
Iman.
Faith. I think that it definitely is something that helps you through difficult times. Strengthening that iman, and that kind of goes with salah for me because my iman is strengthened and increased whenever I do my salah, especially regularly on time. My iman increases because I constantly maintain that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, and the last one is good morals.
Good morals. Actually, the first thing that comes to mind is Prophet's name, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because he was an example of good morals. He was a living, walking, talking, breathing Quran, But his sunnah is a secondary thing that comes to mind because, our good morals are exemplified through his sunnah. What we consider good morals as Muslims, those are exemplified through his sunnah. So, those two things are the immediate things. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his sunnah come to mind.
Okay, brother, thank you very, very much for your time.
Jazakallah khair.
Nayak.
So